All right. So, Kelly, even though we met just recently, I know that you've been in the estate sale business for many, many years. So, please give me a little bit of history on how you got started and how your business has evolved to the place where it is today.
It's a really long story because I've been selling other people's stuff for, in the spring will be 20 years. And I started as a consignment store, a resale store, because I wanted to own a store because I liked fashion and I liked stuff. And I quickly realized I didn't have enough money to stock a store. So I went into a consignment store one day and said, oh, I can sell other people's stuff. That gives me a lot of joy too because people have a lot of cool stuff. So 20 years ago, I opened a little resale store, and now it's a 40 employee, 25,000 square foot resale center that helps people across the state sell their stuff.
Wonderful. So, let's talk about the trends today in estate sales. What are people buying, and what are the items that are most challenging to unload?
Oh, I'm going to make some of you so upset. So the things in people's houses that they spent the most money on are their dining room set. It's beautiful. It was $15,000. It has a beautiful china cabinet, and it's oak and cherry. And I'm like, when people say that, I get a big knot in my stomach because I have to tell them that so many times those things are literally worth negative $250 because that's how much it will cost to get it out when it doesn't sell at the estate sale. So I say that afterwards is that, but we're going to sell your silverware, your bath towels, your clothing, all the stuff that you never bought to resell, and it's going to make up to take the hit on the things that you think are the most money. Grandma's china, like people start telling me their lists of the things that they have in their house, and I'm just like, oh, but it's the stuff that you don't even understand that's going to be worth the money to make it worth doing the estate sale anyways. So I have to break your heart, but then I always lift you back up and teach you how we're going to make money selling all the other stuff.
Yeah, it's generally a lot of the practical stuff that makes sense. So one of the first discussions that I have with many of my clients who are actually moving is the fact that an estate sale only makes sense if you have enough of the right stuff. And some of my clients do, and often the clients don't. It just really, really depends. And so, Kelly, please give us some guidelines for what you want to see in a house before committing to do an estate sale at someone's home, and then maybe even some possibilities if they don't.
Okay. So things have really taken a shift in the last couple of years in the estate sale world because we used to do estate sales. You know, you'd want to be able to get to around $4,000 or $5,000 worth of stuff to make it worth having the estate sale for the client and for the company. And nowadays that number is more up in the $8,000 range for it too. So I have to tell people, if we're not going to get to 8, you're going to sell your stuff, and really you're just leveraging your stuff to move out so that you can get to your real money, which is in your real estate. So if you don't have enough to make sense, or I call it the recipe, which is location, parking, are you in a neighborhood, are you too far out in the country? So there's a lot of scenarios where an estate sale just doesn't make sense. Some people just don't want 300 or 500 people walking through their house. So we, several years ago, came up with a program called Pack, Move, and Sell. And because we have the 25,000 square foot resale center, we take a team of people in, pack every single room into, sell it at Kellie's, sell it in our auction, which is collectible things, higher dollar things. We sell hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of jewelry, things like that can gain your money from losing all the other places. So if it needs to go to donation or if it needs to go to recycling, so we pack the whole house into those categories, and then a moving team comes in and takes everything that we packed to where it needs to go. So it's an invoice for the packing and moving piece, and then you make a percentage back of everything that we sell. So it's a less intrusive way to empty a house, and they're becoming extremely popular to do. And labor these days is so expensive that by the time you spend 3 or 4 days with a team of people pulling everything out, pricing it, staging it, picturing it, marketing it, having people the day of the sale, there's so much labor involved that you really have to have a lot of stuff to make that make sense anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, we had recently done one on my mom's house, and it was, we weren't able to find an estate sale company that could do it in the time frame that we needed, and so we did it on our own, and many, many hours of work, and we pretty much broke even. And that was about it. But, you know, the end result, like Kelly said, is for most of you, if you own a home or a condo, the financial value is in the real estate more than in the stuff. If you can get any money from the stuff, that's just a bonus. So let's talk about the best practices for families who desire to have an estate sale and they feel that they have enough of the right type of things. Is it helpful for them to pre-organize or throw out any items they think are no good? Or what would you like to ask of families who are considering an estate sale?
First thing is to call the estate sale company, hopefully me, as soon as you know you're thinking about doing something, because I can save you so much time and heartache, because really all I need from a client is for you to pack the things that you want to keep. Everything else stays exactly where it is. You don't need to get things ready. You don't need to pull things out. You just need to concentrate on what you want to keep. And then people's like, but what about my clothes? And what about my, do you want to keep your clothes? Well, I want some of them. Okay, take your clothes that you want to keep, leave the rest where they are. If you start helping or donating or giving your stuff to the neighbors because you think, nobody's going to want this, we do that after the sale. So in this day and age, when you have to have a lot of substantial things to sell to make it worth it, every 50-cent dollar, $2, $5 adds up to enough to do the sale. So don't start taking loads of stuff to Goodwill. Don't start giving the next door neighbor all your lawnmower and your things. Those are things that you're going to need to leverage being able to do the sale. So then we do the sale. Then after the sale, now we can donate, give away, you know, get the house the rest of the way empty. So that's the biggest thing, is that people get so nervous about what am I going to do with all this stuff, and really all you need to care about is what you want to keep. And then we do all the rest. If you start helping us, it's not helping us.
Yep. We kind of do the same concept when we've got somebody who is moving from a longtime residence. You know, sometimes they're not even moving to a place that's smaller, but often they're moving someplace that's a little bit smaller. It is so overwhelming to look at a house that you may have been in for 50 or 60 years and think, what do I do with all this stuff? And we encourage people to simply focus on the items that bring you joy and that you keep and use on an everyday basis. If you can focus on those things, then many people in this room, the team that I've built, people like Kelly, people like Susie, we can then assist you with all of the rest once you have chosen your items. So that is such an important point. So I was super excited to hear that you offer all these other options for people who may not even, it may not make sense for them to have an estate sale at their house. So can you dive a little bit deeper into how you do some of the more high dollar items and what it looks like when you do those auctions?
So we have a whole cataloging auction department in our building, and it's probably our fastest growing sector, because when you're dealing with people that have true collections and things that they've kept for a long time that actually do have value, you have to put them out to where the market is going to have the end user bid against each other to buy them. So we've started doing these auctions, and they're wildly successful for people with collections. And while you're still living is the best time to meet with someone like me, because we're going to, I call it collection cataloging, where we're going to put your catalog together while you're still living, because you know about the stuff. So we kind of get all of that ready, and then when you're ready to sell it, whether you're hopefully still here, but if you want to hang on to it and sell it, you know, after you've passed, somebody knows the value in it. So we catalog the items into auctions. We use 2 platforms, so the platforms bid against each other. It's wild, it's fun. If you're doing it while you're living, it's really fun because you get to watch it. Like when you have stuff in the auction, you can see what we're doing. And so that's a better platform for trying to sell Let's see, for instance, we're getting ready to do a guy that has a huge Star Wars collection, just like the coolest stuff. And so we're going to put that out to bid, because how much of that are you going to be able to sell in Linden, Michigan? You have to put it out where people bid, so that, I mean, we ship stuff all over the world. So if you have high dollar stuff, it's a better, sometimes we'll use it at an estate sale to draw a crowd, but we'll put prices on it that we know we can get online, and if somebody locally is willing to pay for it, awesome. But if they're not, you don't have to, and a lot of estate sale companies would have to just liquidate it, because what else are they going to do? We don't do that. We'll pack it up and sell it from our auction or from our estates or from our warehouse store, so that you don't have to just liquidate it at a cheap price. So we really can put your stuff wherever it's going to sell for the most.
So let's talk about the estate sale itself, and how do you educate your clients prior to an estate sale about what they can expect, and also even the type of accounting that they might get after they have the sale, how long does it take to get paid, and so forth. Because I think one of the most surprising things I've seen in the last few years is that when you have an estate sale, it's surprising how many items are still left. And sometimes they're not the things that you would have thought were going to be left.
Typically, I would be able to tell people what probably will be left in the end and what won't be. But so to expect at the estate sale, first thing is you don't get to be there. Break people's hearts there a little bit, because if you imagine in your house, first of all, if you're still living, which 90% of the sales we do, the people are still living. They're just downsizing, they're moving. And so people, the public immediately thinks whoever lived there is dead. So if you're there, they're like, wait a minute. And then the second part is, if you went to a estate sale, would you like the person who owns the stuff to be there watching you? It's awkward. It's very weird. People think they're not emotionally attached to their stuff, but when you see people walking through your house and going through your things and saying, why would someone paint their wall this color? And you're like, you want to say, hey, wait a minute, this is my wall. And it just makes for a really awkward, emotional being. It just is a bad thing. So I like to tell people at an estate sale, people don't have to come there. People want to come to an estate sale, which makes for a really cool atmosphere. It's fun. They find things. They don't buy things unless they loved them or they're going to love them. So you just have to kind of take a deep breath and know that your stuff is going to go someplace where it's going to continue to be loved, most likely, or turned into something else, and you have to be okay with that. Even if everything in your house, think of everything that you're going to sell, if 80% of it sold, which is a pretty good point for an estate sale, there's still 20% of hundreds of things that are left, so it's still a lot. So we work with companies that come in after us. They give a price to get everything out. They sweep and vacuum every floor. We even offer a spring cleaning services if you want that. So literally, I just tell people, go away for the weekend, go spend some time with family, try not to think about it. I'll give you an update at the end of each day so that you know about where we were financially. We have a system for our checkout, which most companies don't have, it's a category. So we usually pick 5 or 6 for each house: furniture, jewelry, garage, like the places where you have the most money. Then you'll get this much dollars sold in furniture, this much sold in that. Usually, if you say, how much did the mid-century dressers sell for? We usually know that. It's just because you just know that. We don't discount things like other companies do, because we can sell it later. Well, we have sales. Don't think we don't discount, because we do. But we don't do 50% and get rid of it at the end. So you get an accounting of a spreadsheet of how much sold for this. And if you really want to know how much something sold, I can do that. We sell cars. The only thing I don't sell is automatic firearms, is pretty much the only thing I don't do. And I work with a company for that. So you'll get an accounting. It's not the spoon was this much and the hairdryer was that much. That's just like, that can't be. But if you want to know, I tell people, pick 5 or 6 things that you really want to know how much they sold for, and we'll keep track of it, just because it's fun to know.
And how long does it generally take before they would receive a check after a sale ends?
So it's a little different with us. So at the end of the weekend, the money goes in the safe, and then I count it Sunday night or Monday. I'll tell you what your numbers were. We'll reconcile that part. I'll send that to you in an email. Then you'll kind of get to pick. Do you want to get paid now, or do you want to ride out the auction, the stuff that's in the store? I'm open to it either way. You'll usually get your reconciliation within 3 or 4 days. The check for that first part can go out within the first 7 to 10 days. Once you go through it, we kind of let the dust settle a little bit. Sometimes we're still collecting money from people. Like sometimes I know lots of people, so they might say, hey, I wanted that. If it didn't sell, and it didn't, so now I've got to collect their money and let them go pick it up. So you have to let the dust settle a little bit. So long story short, 7 to 10 days for the first round, or you can let it ride till everything's done. I'm not going anywhere. I've been doing it for 20 years, so I won't skip town with your money, I promise.
That's good to know. So lastly, since the majority of our audience is not moving, tell us how anyone in this room or people that they know, if they had things that they wanted to sell, what's kind of the best way to get a hold of you, and what does that process look like of meeting with a person to see their items?
Sometimes we do pre-sell or start the process with people, especially with jewelry, because I don't leave that at the estate sale anyway. We have 2 full-time jewelers that work at my store. So there's things that I know we're just not going to sell at the sale, so we can start working on those things ahead of time. The other thing would be, oh my gosh, I lost my thought. What was the question? All the way?
How would you meet with somebody who wanted to sell items?
Sorry. So the sooner, my biggest advice to anybody that is going to be needing to do this sooner than later is to get something on paper to plan. Because the other part of what I do is attorneys' offices hire me when the family's fighting over your stuff. And it is awful. And if you would just take the time to write it down, Sarah wants this, Jimmy wants that, these things are gifted, these things are part of their distribution. Then I go in, and sometimes they still argue, and they're spending your money with somebody like me to make it's black and white. Like if you have children and they're sharing in the distribution, if he wants the car and she wants the spoon, it's black and white. And so if they get along because it's in mom and dad's handwriting and it's been with an attorney, there's no issues. But if you don't do that and you leave it up to your children who you think get along really well, when money's involved, it's a whole different ballgame. So get it in writing, spend some time and figure it out, make sure they both understand. And I tell people, let's get a list of the expensive things. Let's tell them, if you fight over my stuff, I will come back. And I will, because I see it tear families apart all the time. And they spend thousands of dollars of your money fighting over stuff because you didn't plan ahead. Big advice. Promise, take that advice.
Okay, who in the audience knows what I'm talking about when I say our grab and go binder? All right, so some of my regulars, does anybody have one that they could hold up? I should have Sherry hold one up. The grab and go binder is something that we have out at, I have some at the Kelso Homes table, and it's just a booklet that is designed for families to fill out together on all of their desires, all of their important stuff, all of their legal documents. We do give those out for free. We also have things on your end of life plans and how to talk about those. So please feel free to stop by our table and we will happily give those to you. And when we run out, we will print more because there's a lot of printing involved. So I don't want to just hand them out to everybody if everybody doesn't want them. But the more that you can document your items, like she said, the better. So Kelly, thank you. Thank you so much. We're going to move on to Kim in just a second.